So,
Yeah,
overall, I think really, yeah. Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, please. No. I
Yeah,
was
no,
gonna say, no, after you,
I insist. So
please.
we take off a week and we can't
Mine
have
is good.
our shit's totally not together.
I know. We forget how to do this thing.
We're not
Okay, you
editing this
go.
though. This is going in. I mean, this is good stuff. Well, I was going
Oh,
to
this is
jump
the
to the
cold open.
only other. Welcome to Wait What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGhee, the podcast that takes an often irreverent, sometimes cynical, and on occasion even a serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host David Parro.
And I'm Tim McGhee.
Well, the stage is set for the men's and women's Final Four. You are in Phoenix for the Women's Naismith Award announcements. I have to ask, well, I hope you can tell us something. I mean, I know the announcement isn't until tomorrow. I do have to say I'm feeling pretty good about my Vic Schaefer pick as Coach of the Year, the Texas coach, and Sarah Strong, I think, best player on the best team. I know you can't say anything, but what can you tell us? How's it going out there?
Well, we had our event today. We have created a program, a legacy program, where we refurbish a YMC gym in each Final Four city. So, as you know, Dr. Naismith invented the game of basketball at a YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts. So, CEO of the Atlanta Tip-Off Club, Eric Oberman, past guest, good friend. He came up with this idea a couple of years ago. So this morning we unveiled the refurbishment of a gym here in the Valley of the Sun, and we'll be doing the same thing on Saturday in Indianapolis. But you're right, I can't say anything about the awards. I do want to say that I am a little bit out of breath right now. I just got done taking a victory lap because we got our prediction right about the WNBA.
Yeah, we did, and it came down to it. But I tell you what, I think if you look at it, I think both sides played it out accordingly, and they came to a resolution that it seems everybody's pretty happy with, and they're not going to lose games as the season starts early next month. And we have expansion draft coming this Friday, and draft on the heels of that. So yeah, I think it seems as everyone's feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, two new teams joining the league, Portland and Toronto. Women are going to be paid a significantly greater amount of money. Paige Beckers was the last number one draft under the old CBA, so don't know who's going to go number one in this year's draft, but certainly they're going to make a lot more money than the last two number one picks, Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark. They deserve it.
Yeah, a nearly five-time increase in the salary cap from 1.5 to 7 million. Players comp obviously way up. Players getting 20% of gross revenue. They had been getting less than 10%. I think they went into the negotiation wanting something closer to 50, or where the NBA players were. I think you and I both realized that was probably unrealistic, but also felt that they deserved certainly a big bump, driven largely by the valuations of the teams going up. So,
Yeah,
overall, I think really, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, please. No. I
Yeah,
was
no,
going to say, no, after you.
I insist. So
Please.
we take off a week and we can't
Mine
have
is good.
our shit's totally not together.
I know. We forget how to do this thing.
We're not
Okay, you
editing
go.
this though. This is going in. I mean, this is good stuff. Well, I was going
Oh,
to
this is
jump
the
to
cold
the
open.
only other thing I was going to make, because it's still a big question mark, is does Kathy Engelbert survive after the dust?
Yeah,
is settled
I
there?
don't. Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't know if her leaving is a fait accompli anymore. Just a couple other things on the deal. As you mentioned, salary cap $7 million. Average player salary will now be $584,000. And then last but certainly not least, it's a 7-year deal with an opt out after 6. So they're going to live with this for several years. If they continue to grow at the pace they have been, then we will probably find ourselves in a similar situation 6 years from now. And then most recently, you talked about the increased value of the teams. It's been announced that the Connecticut Sun is going to be sold to Tillman Fertitta, owner of the Houston Rockets. He's going to move the team to Houston. He's currently the U.S. ambassador to Italy. The politicos in Connecticut are not very happy with that. And And I have to say, they have an argument because Mark Lasry apparently offered 325 million, and he was only going to move the team from Uncasville, Connecticut, over to Hartford.
Right. Well, that was the second one because originally the tribe had done a deal basically to move the team to Boston. Engelbert stepped in strong, said it wasn't an approved city. Felt the same way I think about the situation moving to Hartford because that was when Lasry came in on the second one. But you know, the league had said that Houston was an approved city. So I'm not surprised that it happened. I think you were right. I think there's a legit beef about it, but the league ended up, drawing a big line on that one that they wanted to have approved cities. They had cities that had already stepped up and gotten through the process of being cleared. I think your point, if I recall it correctly, early on was if the deal's better, that's the owner has the right to sell who he wants to sell, with the fact that it obviously has to go through approval of the league, and it didn't do it in this case.
I think what they're doing is they're protecting themselves from future expansion because if they can't if there was some sort of implied agreement that Houston would get a team at some point and then they were going to be passed over in this case, maybe that has something to do with it. But $25 million is not insignificant. And so the current owners of the team are leaving $25 million on the table. How many people do you know do that? I don't know any.
Well, I will say this. You mentioned the draft. The Supermax number, by the way, is 1.4 million. I think we can expect Paige Beckers will be making that soon enough.
Yes.
And if you look at the teams that are in the Final Four, they're the four best teams. They're the number one seeds. But I think beyond that, four really, really exceptional basketball teams in Texas and UConn and South Carolina and UCLA. I
don't see how anybody beats Connecticut, but I've been wrong before.
Well, that's what's
first time in 30 years.
Because
yeah.
If you watch what South Carolina's been doing, a steady, regular, year in, year out, perennial dominating team under the guidance of Dawn Staley. And they're not as good as Connecticut, at least by what we've seen so far. But they're clearly really good. And Texas, I mean, they look really good as well.
Yeah.
And we know what UCLA's been doing for a while. So the point I was trying to make when I mentioned the Supermax is I think there are going to be players coming out, and I don't know who all is, seniors and declaring and planning to participate in the draft, but the game is at a really good place right now. And with this new deal in place, the WNBA is going to be a nice home for people, I think, to make some pretty good money coming out of school and continuing, and embarking on a solid professional career with a good foundation under it.
Yeah, I think two of the seniors that come immediately to mind, Hannah Hidalgo, she's short, but she's a phenomenal defensive player. She's one of the finalists for our Defensive Player of the Year award. Lauren Betts, finalist for Defensive Player of the Year award, and she's a big. You can't coach height, as they say. So we'll see. We'll see soon enough. What else is on your mind?
Well, let's talk a little baseball. MLB season kicked off this week. The Nats took 2 or 3 from the Cubs, which is not. I mean, the Cubs are predicted to win their division, and the Nationals certainly aren't predicted to do well. But at Wrigley Field, they took 2 or 3 from my Cubs. But a lot of things going on. I think there's a lot of attention on Major League Baseball because of so many good things happened last year. Coming off of the WBC, which was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. We have a new system in place for giving the umpires a little bit of extra help. The new ABS challenge system. It has been used fairly frequently, and I will say this. I think it shows that the players are pretty tuned in to what a ball and strike is. 54% of the challenges have indeed been overturned, which isn't crazy. It doesn't say that the umpires are completely lost, but it does show that the players aren't just always begging for the call. So 54%. But the most interesting piece of it, which I've always said, who's the smartest player on the field at any time?
Catcher.
The catcher. The catcher's challenges have been right over 60% of the time. The batters have been the lowest. The pitchers and the catchers are the stronger ones, which just goes to show. I mean, the catchers, that position is just so amazing. But they also absolutely know what's coming over the plate and where it is. They have complete control visually of that ball coming over.
Yeah. It was widely agreed up until he retired in May of 2024 that Angel Hernandez was the worst umpire in baseball.
Yes.
I think it was widely agreed. CB Buckner has taken that mantle, and as the kids like to say, hold my beer. He had 6 missed calls overturned in one game last week. This comes on the heels of last season when he missed 28 calls in a single game. 28 calls. That's more than 1 per out.
Yeah. Yeah. Angel was like the Frank Thomas or Ted Williams for that matter, in opposite, right? Because those guys had such good eyes
Right.
that if they took the ball, the ump was like, of course that was a ball. They would have swung at it if it was a strike. Angel was his reputation was so bad that he just got obliterated. Now it would have been fun to see him have to operate under the ABS system.
He may very well have seen it coming and was like,
he totally did. Totally.
When can I start drawing on that pension?
Yeah. It was always funny when he started getting booed and he just like start staring people down. It's like, dude, your reputation's so bad. Just live with it and move on. They're still paying you, obviously. But, a lot of eyes obviously on the league because we are going to start seeing and hearing a lot of posturing as it relates to their CBA negotiation that will take place, at the end of the season, or this current one that they're operating on ends at the as this season concludes. But it's going to be a fascinating one. It's going to be an absolutely fascinating one.
Yeah, a couple things I would say. I do think the ABS system has worked well so far.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't significantly slowed down the pace of play, which is good. And some of the players who have requested it have done so in sort of questionable moments of the game, but I think they're getting used to it as well. But I do think it's good for the game. I do want to go back to opening day. I was watching a Netflix commercial and a baseball game broke out in the middle.
It was
painful.
Cringy, man.
Oh, it was painful.
And it got panned so bad for all the right reasons.
Thank God we don't have to see them again on Netflix until the home run derby.
And
they'll be hitting into big Netflix logos out in the outfield, no doubt.
I've generally been supportive of the approach that Netflix has taken with sports, but this seemed like the wrong sport to be that overt with everything, and from the talent that they brought in to deliver the messages it was absolutely just an advertisement for Netflix. With
the one bright spot was Barry Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
He was widely lauded for his performance, but even the post game interviews were just terrible. Oh gosh.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten to mention that because it seems like it was.
We shouldn't take a week off anymore. We can't afford to.
No,
we're too important.
The question is what did Polymarket have to say about whether Netflix's opening day was going to be a success or not? Because it seems like everything else is on there, and now we know that it's been announced that Major League Baseball has an exclusive in the prediction market with Polymarket.
That I will make my own prediction. That's going to blow up in a league's face at some point.
Well, they announced right off the bat that they've preemptively blocked athletes and coaches and political candidates from betting in markets that they could influence. So that goes back to the political side of this.
Yeah, and that doesn't...
It doesn't matter that it's the principle anymore.
There's an old saying that locks only keep out honest people. All right, so you can make rules that these players and coaches and managers can't bet. Somebody wants to bet, they're going to find a way to bet.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're a player or actively involved in the game in some way, then they can materially impact a game in a negative way. And not necessarily even a negative way, but a way that is detrimental to the game.
Yeah, and then the numbers are big. They're fetching a lot of money, and we understand it. We talk about it all the time on this show. If there's a category that can generate money for the league or for the individual teams, it's going to probably be pursued. But this is opening up so many more things to me, and there's starting to be a lot of talk on this. And we're hearing it somewhat because of all of the betting markets, all of the things that are coming through these markets, Kalshi and Poly Market, for things like, are we going to be at war? And there's clearly people with inside information that are able to bet because there's no regulation. And so there's an active list of players. A player goes in under his name and tries to bet. He gets kicked out, or participate in a market, I should say. That doesn't mean anything. It's nice that they are finding these things out quickly, but the more avenues that are created, the worse this gets. And then the integrity, it's the combination of the game being played and presented by the network partners, the broadcast partners, for bettors instead of fans, and then the fans having to deal with whether or not the game is being played out clean because someone has certain information or has the ability to manipulate what happens in that game for simple things. So I'm so dubious about all of these deals, and we're not naive. We're not prudes about stuff like this. But it's every day it seems like this stuff's getting ramped up more, and it just seems more obvious, I think, to both of us of how easy this is going to be to create additional scandal or for people manipulating the system to get rich. So I don't know. I guess that's our talk on baseball. What other big story you want to touch on?
Tiger Woods.
Oh, Tiger? What? Something happened?
Yeah, he came back and played in the TGL.
I was like, how many times is this dude going to roll a car? I mean, that's hard to roll a car. And in a place like Jupiter, Florida, where it's basically like the roads are like golf carts. You're driving around. So, and now he said, I think it just came out today, he said he was looking at his phone and adjusting the radio, which he may have been doing while on whatever he was on. And I've been a huge fan of Tiger Woods. I think that we got to see one of the greatest athletes perform great things time and time again. He's right up there with the greatest athletes I've ever been able to see in person. But he's got issues. I'm betting, and I imagine there's a poly market to go on, is he's not going to be the Ryder Cup captain in 2027. But he'll have a comeback, by the way. He will have a comeback. He'll have another comeback in one way or another, whether he's playing or not.
So I don't want to make light of his situation for two reasons. I'm not saying you are, but for two reasons. Number one, he seems to have a substance abuse problem, and that is an illness. And I hope he gets the help that he needs to overcome that. But more importantly, if he's out driving his car under the influence, that's no longer just impacting him. He could potentially have killed somebody. So for those reasons, I would imagine he is probably going to lose his license for at least some amount of time, because this is his second. Assuming it gets adjudicated and he is found guilty of driving under the influence. Apparently they found painkillers, opioids in his car.
Yeah, given all the things he's been through and probably how often he would have normally and legitimately been prescribed painkillers, opioids.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the easiest thing in the world to get addicted to.
Yeah.
And again, I agree with you. You're right. We shouldn't be making light of that. But it would be nice for Tiger, I think, for once maybe, to come completely clean.
Yeah.
And say, this is the deal. I know I need help. But we've seen it with the rock stars, Prince, Tom Petty. These guys were on so many different things, and it killed them.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that happen to Tiger.
No, I don't either. And think about how many people he could help if he spoke up. I got my tonsils out in 2008 as an adult, obviously, and they gave me oxycodone. And I took it for like a day, and I just didn't like the way it made me feel. So I stopped taking it. But I suffer from kidney stones. And when I tell you I wouldn't wish kidney stones on my worst enemy, well, I would, but most other people I would not. but I still have 17, what is that, 18-year-old oxycodone locked up in my house that if I get a kidney stone, that's the only thing that provides enough relief that I can sleep through the night until it passes.
The interesting thing is, in addition to the Ryder Cup captaincy, which I think he was the favorite to be named it,
Mhm.
but nothing official had been done, is Brian Rolapp has named Tiger as one of the key players in redesigning some of his vision for the tour. Now, I think Tiger probably has a chance to continue to play that role. I mean, Tiger is someone that should be listened to. The players still, I think, respect and love what he did for the game. And every one of these top players right now, they are playing golf because of Tiger Woods.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be nice for him to just be completely transparent. I don't think it shows weakness to say that you
I
have
agree.
an addiction or a substance abuse problem. I hope he gets the help that he really appears to need, and that that he moves on into the next chapter of his life, whatever that includes. But he's had some horrible injuries and surgeries, but it's an illness, and hopefully he gets treatment.
All right, you got a lot of stuff going on. I think we could possibly take a break, come back, and do the wrap if that's
Yeah,
good
that
with you.
works.
All right.
All right, we are back, and this is the part of the show where we take a look forward, we give shout outs. So, David, what are you looking forward to?
Well, a couple corrections first from last week. I had two corrections, Tim. You always say it's only you that does these
You got a
corrections,
long way
but
to
you have to
catch
be
up,
honest on that.
but
Number one,
okay.
and one of them is completely embarrassing
All
because I
right.
said I was going out to Chicago for Jamie's 5th birthday. Jamie's only 4, so I'm not that old. Is the point there? That's just, and I'm admitting it. It's like I don't know what I was thinking. I got all geeked up about a 5th birthday, but
Okay.
he's 4. But he's awesome, by the way. And I also said that Nebraska hadn't been in the tournament before. They hadn't won in the men's tournament before, so I was wrong about that. I'm just correcting myself. Not that anyone cared or called me out on it, but I have to come clean on these things. Shout out to a past guest and a congratulations to Sean Gleason and professional bull riders. Their team series, which Sean talked a lot about, that was something he was super high on when he joined us as a guest. They're expanding, looking to expand to 12 teams for the 2027 season. Getting, like a lot of these sports leagues, a lot of investment in. We mentioned Mark Lasry earlier. He's bought into one of the teams. So the numbers on these teams have gotten like really high, like surprisingly high, I think. That said, I think Sean has continued to guide that series, and including the ownership that they have from TKO. So congrats to them. I also am watching, I think it's kind of a funny story, but since we had Kenan Kamwana Holly on, the director of the ABA documentary that we, had a nice chat about some weeks ago on Amazon Prime Video, George the Iceman Gervin, has, tried to file for trademarks for the Iceman, which just seems a little late for him to be doing that, given that it was his nickname. I mean, he was the Iceman. And Caleb Williams, of course, the star quarterback for the Chicago Bears, who developed a reputation this season for having these amazing, like being very cool under crazy pressure, particularly at the end of the games, and people started calling him Iceman. He threw in his hat, and I think he has tried to claim that for himself. I don't know. I think they both could be Iceman. And it turns out, by the way, Chuck Liddell, who you may remember from early UFC MMA fame, he was the Iceman too. So I don't know if he gets into the mix. Anyway, I think a fun, interesting story to watch. A little F1 news with the cancellations of the races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, and a lot of talk about some of the problems with the regulation as it relates to power management in the cars. There was a pretty vicious wreck this past weekend in Japan. A race car driver that I worked with a fair amount. Ollie Behrman had what was a scary crash. He's fine, fortunately, but it showcased kind of this problem with the power management. And so now that they have this break, which they didn't expect to have, it'll be a nice time to look at the regulations. I expect that they will be making some changes before the next race in Miami at the very beginning of May. And of course, looking forward to everything NCAA on both the men's and women's side, including Naismith activity, Tim.
Well, I wish I could share with you, but you'll have to wait. As we record this on Tuesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be awarding the women Defensive Player of the Year, Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, and our Outstanding Contributor Award. I can tell you that Tara Vanderveer has won our Outstanding Contributor Award,
Nice.
which is a Lifetime Achievement Award. Thursday, I will head over to Indianapolis. We will have a welcome dinner on Friday night. We will do another gym refurbishment reveal on Saturday. And then Sunday morning, we will be doing the men's awards. So I am looking forward to that on both a personal and professional level. One thing that I'm keeping my eye on is it is becoming more and more possible that Tottenham may get relegated in the Premier League, which is, I don't know, it's like, it's almost unfathomable. To quote the Princess Bride, it's inconceivable, but it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, you never thought one of those top six teams, those big six teams would ever, that's not even in the equation. It's everything maybe beneath, and one of the bottom teams having a great year and coming up and finishing top of the table. But yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, and Wrexham, which was near the top of the table of the championship for much of the season, I believe is now in seventh.
You jinxed
them. No, I didn't jinx them. We said we had this conversation. I've had this conversation with Tom Glick, who we hope to get on the show, who's been in soccer since Jesus was a carpenter, it seems. It's that jump from championship to Premier League is extremely difficult. And given where Wrexham was just 3 years ago, it would have been more inconceivable for Wrexham to be promoted than to have Tottenham be relegated.
Yes, agreed. But not like it still would have been highly improbable to think of the concept of Tottenham being relegated.
Yes.
But yes, I agree with that on a comparison basis.
Next week, I promise I will try to get an Inigo Montoya quote from Princess Bride.
Hey, listen, we can never have enough of Princess Bride. It might be the most highly quoted movie that we've had. Maybe Spinal Tap a close second.
For some reason, my favorite line in that movie is, "Have fun storming the castle, boys."
The common denominator of both of those is Rob Reiner. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they said that apparently the whole Billy Crystal thing extended the recording because they just let him go for like a couple of days and no one knew what he was going to say.
I saw an interview with Mandy Patinkin, and he said he was actually injured on the set. He hurt himself holding back from laughing during the takes.
Yeah. Well, both a brilliant approach by the great Rob Reiner, but also just Billy Crystal in his prime.
All right. What do you say, partner? We sign off?
Yes.
All right. See you guys. No, seriously, thank you to all our listeners. If you like what you hear, smash that subscribe button, that follow button, that like button. Find us wherever you find your podcast. But if you need help, just go to dpandmcgee.com. Until next week, he's DP, I'm McGhee, and we'll talk soon.